Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Yokai, an explorer of supernatural phenomena that wander the night. Tonight, we will focus on a mysterious being that quietly resides in old Japanese homes, the Zashiki Warashi. Many of you have likely heard of them. They are generally known as kind spirits, who bring good fortune and wealth to a household. But is this truly the case? Hidden deep within the lore of the Zashiki Warashi is a profound law of wealth that cannot be fully explained by simple tales of good luck. It speaks of a tremendous decline that follows sudden fortune, a mysterious truth surrounding the interconnected energy cycle of prosperity and poverty. Tonight, we will unravel this tale of light and shadow, delving deep into what the Zashiki Warashi might be trying to tell us. What exactly is a Zashiki Warashi? They are often depicted as charming children with bob haircuts. Sometimes they appear as red-faced boys or white-skinned girls. Their age also varies, from infants to early teens. They are invariably said to quietly dwell deep within old houses, in tatami rooms, storehouses, or beneath the floorboards. Numerous legends about them persist, particularly in the Tohoku region and especially in Iwate Prefecture. Tono City, known as the hometown of Zashiki Warashi, is even said to have existing inns where they still appear. The most famous saying associated with this yokai is that a house with a Zashiki Warashi prospers, and a house they leave falls into ruin. The good fortune they bring to a home is diverse, including business prosperity, family lineage continuation, and recovery from illness. It is believed that those who sense their presence, or even see them directly, will be blessed with good fortune. For example, many stories tell of a family member suffering from a severe illness whose condition mysteriously stabilizes, while the Zashiki Warashi is present, or of an unexpected large business deal coming through. Even when the family business is struggling, their actions are also truly childlike. They might run around making footsteps at night. Children's voices might be heard from an empty room. Pillows might be flipped, or toys that were being played with might be found in a different spot. These are all heartwarming, yet somewhat eerie phenomena, as if real children are present. These are believed to be signs that a Zashiki Warashi is in the house. If the residents notice their presence and treat them kindly, the Zashiki Warashi is said to love that home even more deeply and continue to bring good fortune. However, a question arises here: why would a mere child like yokai bring such immense wealth and good fortune? The answer to this is deeply intertwined with tonight's theme, the law of wealth. Zashiki Warashi are not merely symbols of good luck. I believe they are beings that manipulate the Kai life energy of a house. Or perhaps they are the embodiment of that energy itself. Homes with Zashiki Warashi are strangely bright and vibrant. Families get along well, laughter is constant, and visitors are always present. Zashiki Warashi may be drawn to places filled with such good ki, and at the same time, play a role in amplifying that good Kai. Their innocent playfulness and the sense of them moving around the house circulate and revitalize the often stagnant K of the home. One might compare them to an invisible energy amplifier installed within the house. This circulation of Kai is believed to manifest as physical wealth and good fortune. When good Ki circulates, family members become healthy and their hearts become abundant. When mind and body are fulfilled, motivation for work increases and human relationships become smooth. The accumulation of such positive energy eventually leads to concrete assets and success. In other words, Zashiki Warashi can be said to be both the cause of good fortune and the medium through which good fortune manifests as a result. However, this cycle of good fortune is by no means permanent. The legends of Zashiki Warashi almost always include accounts of decline after they depart. A house that reached the pinnacle of prosperity begins to falter the moment the Zashiki Warashi disappears, eventually embarking on a path of ruin. Is this merely a coincidence? I believe a deeper law, the energy cycle of wealth and poverty, is hidden here. While the Zashiki Warashi is present, the house thrives. Assets increase, status improves, and the family enjoys happiness. However, humans are sometimes creatures who grow accustomed to this happiness. Taking it for granted, they may become overconfident in their own abilities, attributing the good fortune brought by the Zashiki Warashi to themselves, or forget their gratitude towards unseen beings. Arrogance, idleness, or greed begins to sprout. Such changes in the heart gradually taint the kai of the house. Positive energy transforms into negative energy. Zashiki Warashi are pure and innocent beings. They dislike lingering in such tainted ki. As the atmosphere in the house worsens, family members, quarrel and grievances accumulate, the Zashiki Warashi gradually diminish their presence and eventually quietly, but surely depart from that home. The departure of a Zashiki Warashi is not merely the disappearance of a symbol of good fortune. It signifies the collapse of the wealth energy cycle that had circulated through the house. Once the Zashiki Warashi is gone, the house loses its vitality. Discord arises among family members. Business stagnates and misfortunes crowd in one after another. It is as if everything that had been built up collapses with a crash. It might be more natural to think that the Zashiki Warashi departed as a symptom of the house's decline rather than the house declined, because the Zashiki Warashi departed. In other words, the Zashiki Warashi is like a mirror, reflecting the state of the house's ki. The energy cycle of wealth is constantly generated, consumed, and circulated. Zashiki Warashi act as a catalyst to activate this cycle, but if the humans responsible for driving the cycle lose their gratitude and humility and begin to generate negative energy, the cycle will stagnate and eventually begin to reverse. Let's look at specific legends. The Zashiki Warashi legend passed down in Tono City, Iwadi Prefecture, is a classic example. In an old inn, a Zashiki Warashi dwelled for many years, thanks to whom the inn prospered, and guests from all over the country never ceased to visit. The innkeeper and his wife never forgot their gratitude to the Zashiki Warashi, treating them with care, like a member of their own family. However, at one point, a new master took over. This master began to resent the presence of the Zashiki Warashi, becoming irritated by the unseen child's footsteps and mischief, eventually uttering the words, "Please leave." From then on, fewer guests visited the inn, misfortunes struck one after another, and it is said that the inn eventually led to its closure. In another story, a Zashiki Warashi lived in the home of a wealthy farmer. Thanks to the Zashiki Warashi, this family amassed immense wealth, becoming one of the richest in the surrounding region. However, the head of the house, intoxicated by this wealth, gradually grew arrogant, treated servants harshly, and was cold to the poor. One year, towards the end of the year, a soft weeping sound was heard from the inner parlor of the house, and after that, the presence of the child who had been running around the house abruptly ceased. Since then, the wealthy farmer's home was plagued by successive poor harvests and disasters. Their investments failed, and they rapidly lost their fortune, finally falling into ruin. It is said that the master only realized the Zashiki Warashi had left much later and regretted it deeply. These legends are too instructive to be dismissed as mere superstitions. They contain a universal message about what is needed to build wealth and sustain it. Cherishing the Zashiki Warashi is not only an act of reverence for unseen beings, but also an expression of gratitude for one's own heart, the people around them, and the good fortune bestowed upon them. When that gratitude is forgotten, when one is intoxicated by wealth and their heart becomes tainted, the Zashiki Warashi quietly disappears, leaving behind only the reality of empty ruin. This resonates with the rise and fall of the wealthy in modern society. Companies and individuals who achieve rapid success, only to become arrogant with their wealth, lose their ethical compass, forget social contributions, and eventually forfeit trust, seeing their ventures decline. It is as if the Zashiki Warashi has departed from their house. Conversely, companies and individuals who diligently continue their efforts maintain a humble attitude and never forget their gratitude to society, build strong trust, and enjoy sustainable prosperity, even amidst significant ups and downs. Perhaps the Zashiki Warashi are asking us, what is wealth? It likely refers to more than just material possessions. It encompasses richness of heart, family bonds, connections with the community, and above all, a grateful heart. These are the sources of the wealth energy that Zashiki Warashi attract, and when these are lost, it suggests that no matter how much material wealth one possesses, true abundance is lost, and eventually, everything will crumble. So, how should we approach the Zashiki Warashi and the energy of wealth? First and foremost, never forget the spirit of gratitude. No matter how small the good fortune, do not take it for granted. Be sincerely thankful. This is not only for unseen beings like the Zashiki Warashi, but also a reverence for the people we encounter in daily life and for the world itself. A grateful heart will generate positive energy and keep the key of the house pure. Next, cultivate a spirit of dignified frugality. Zashiki Warashi do not prefer extravagant living. Rather, they are said to favor warm homes, even modest ones, filled with family love. As wealth increases, people tend to seek luxury, but it is crucial not to lose sight of what is truly important. Avoiding waste and possessing a spirit of contentment with what one has might be the secret to retaining a Zashiki Warashi. And finally, be humble. Even after achieving success, never become arrogant and always maintain a willingness to learn. Understand that success is due not only to your own abilities, but also to unseen forces and the support of many people. A humble heart will ward off arrogance and suppress the generation of negative energy that Zashiki Warashi dislike. Zashiki Warashi are by no means beings that punish us. They merely reflect the state of the house's kai, that is, the state of our human hearts. If we emit positive energy, they will amplify that energy and continue to bring good fortune. However, if we begin to generate negative energy, they will leave that place. As a result, good fortune is lost and decline arrives. In modern society, Zashiki Warashi can perhaps be seen as symbolic beings that reflect our inner mental state and how we engage with society. Whether one believes in unseen beings or not is a personal matter, but the law of wealth and decline they teach us is highly insightful. Good fortune is not merely something that falls upon us, it is something we attract and sustain through our daily actions and state of mind. The story of a house losing its Zashiki Warashi and falling into ruin is, ultimately, a narrative of how the people in that house, by losing the spiritual richness of gratitude, humility, and purity, the very source of prosperity, drove away their own good fortune. Zashiki Warashi might be mystical beings who peer into the depths of our human hearts and adjust the cycle of fortune and ruin according to their state. What should we learn from the legend of the Zashiki Warashi? It is the importance of not just pursuing material wealth, but living a fulfilling life and never forgetting reverence for the unseen. Whether beings like Zashiki Warashi truly exist or not may be an eternal mystery. However, the stories they pass down hold important hints for us to live rich and fulfilling lives. Tonight, I hope the image of the Zashiki Warashi and the law of wealth they convey have been deeply imprinted in your hearts, even just a little. Let us carry a sense of awe and reverence for unseen beings, never forget daily gratitude, and walk a path towards a prosperous life. Until next time in the dark of night. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the profound world of yokai. These monstrous beings, stirring in the darkness of night, have captivated people's imaginations for ages, becoming objects of terror and awe. Among them, the Rokurokubi and Nuka-kubi are perhaps the most bizarre and possess a certain eerie beauty. Today we will focus on these two yokai, delving deeply into their origins, legends, and even modern scientific perspectives. Why would only a human head undergo such an abnormal transformation? By approaching this mystery with medical insights, your understanding of yokai will undoubtedly reach a new phase. By the time you finish watching this video, the neck of someone walking beside, you might just appear a little longer than usual. Come, let us embark together on a forbidden journey of exploration. First, let's introduce the Rokurokubi. This yokai lives as an ordinary human during the day, but at night, its neck stretches abnormally long. Often depicted as women in many legends, their strange appearance gives viewers a strong sense of shock mixed with an unsettling allure. The etymology of Rokurokubi is said to come from the rokuro, potter's wheel used to shape pottery. The way a pot transforms on the wheel while spinning was likely likened to a neck stretching long. However, what makes this yokai terrifying and intriguing is not just that its neck extends, but that it performs various actions while its neck is elongated. Its first appearance in literature is believed to be in the Edo period, collection of strange tales, Sorori Monogatari. Here, a young samurai on a journey encounters a woman whose neck stretches up to the ceiling at night to lick oil from an oil lamp. This story is very famous as the prototype of Rokurokubi, and thereafter it began to be depicted in many strange and ghost stories. Many Rokurokubi are often portrayed as being unaware of their own abnormality, or desperately hiding their true identity. Because they lead normal lives during the day, Their transformation only appears at night. This might symbolize the hidden side of human nature, their concealed true self. In some legends, a Rokurokubi's husband discovers his wife's nocturnal transformation, is horrified by her stretched neck, and ultimately, the wife meets a tragic end, discovering her true identity. Furthermore, some Rokurokubi possess more malicious traits, such as sucking human blood or draining human life force. By extending its neck, it can reach prey in places normally inaccessible, stealing their vitality. This can be interpreted as the embodiment of human desires, or malice that preys on others. However, on the other hand, there are also legends of harmless Rokurokubi that simply stretch their necks out of curiosity or hunger. The act of licking oil might reflect a certain craving for oil, a valuable resource in that era. Rokurokubi legends have been passed down across various regions of Japan. It is a yokai widely shared among people, not limited to a specific area, proving that many believed in and feared its existence. Its form has been depicted in classical performing arts like kabuki and ukiyo-e, deeply rooted in Japanese culture. Next, let's look at the nukakubi. This yokai is often confused with the rokurokubi, but there is a definitive difference in their nature. The nukakubi is even more unrealistic and terrifying at night. Its head completely separates from its torso and floats in the air. While the rokurokubi's neck stretches while remaining attached to its body, the nukakubi's head literally detaches. The torso remains in place after the head flies off, lying dormant like a shell. The head, flying freely through the air, moves to various places at its own will, and is sometimes said to inflict harm upon people. The origin of the nukakubi is also said to derive from the Chinese yokai Hituban. Hituban is a yokai whose head separates from its body and flies around, supposedly sucking human blood every night. Similar yokai are widely distributed in Southeast Asia, such as the Banshee in Thailand or the Penanggalan in Malaysia. In these regions, many of them are women, who live as ordinary women during the day, a commonality observed. A famous nukakubi legend in Japan is found in the Taiheki. It describes a man living in Hizen Province, parts of modern-day Saga and Nagasaki prefectures, who witnesses his wife's head detach from her torso and fly around at night. Before her head can return, he hides her body. The head, having lost its place to return, eventually exhausts its strength and perishes. This story suggests that the nukakubi's weakness lies in its separated torso. If its body is hidden or harmed, the nukakubi loses its way back and meets its demise. The purposes for which a nukakubi flies around vary. They may suck people's blood, extract their livers, or simply wander to instill fear. While most act with malicious intent, some legends also describe them flying through the night sky, simply driven by the urge to fly. Both rokurokubi and nukakubi share the commonality of the head, undergoing an abnormal transformation. Yet there are clear differences in their form and operational principles. Rokurokubi represents a deformation, where a part of the body stretches, while nukakubi signifies a more fundamental bodily anomaly of a part separating. This difference affects both the yokai's character and the quality of fear they inspire. Now, while what we have discussed so far are merely yokai legends, a question arises. If phenomena like rokurokubi or nukakubi could truly occur in the human body, what kind of mechanism would be behind them? From here, I would like to deeply consider that possibility from a medical perspective. As mentioned in the input, let's consider the possibility of a neck-stretching physiological phenomenon, or an abnormal cervical spine structure within the body from the viewpoint of Medicine X rare illness. First, regarding the phenomenon of the neck stretching long like a rokurokubi, this might be interpreted as an abnormality of the cervical spine in modern medicine. The human cervical spine plays an extremely important role in supporting the skull and sending nerves from the brain to the entire body, and it usually consists of 7 bones vertebrae. If this cervical spine were to undergo abnormal development, or if its structure were to change due to a specific disease, the phenomenon of the neck appearing abnormally long or actually stretching is not entirely impossible. Possible scenarios include the following. 1. Excessive flexibility and extensibility, hypermobility. Some individuals are born with joint laxity, where their joints are abnormally flexible. This occurs due to abnormalities in connective tissue, such as in Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Patients with this syndrome exhibit abnormally stretchy skin and excessively flexible joints. Theoretically, if the neck joints, surrounding ligaments, and muscles possessed such abnormal extensibility, it is conceivable that the neck could physically move in a way that makes it appear longer than usual. Of course, there would be a risk of joint dislocation, but in extreme cases, a phenomenon resembling a rokorokubi might momentarily occur. Abnormal vertebral development. It is also conceivable that individual vertebrae making up the cervical spine could grow abnormally long due to some genetic factor or an unknown disease. If each vertebra were longer than usual, the overall neck length would naturally increase. This could be considered a type of congenital malformation. However, in such cases, the neck would not freely extend and contract, but would be permanently in an elongated state. 3. Abnormal elongation of muscles and connective tissues. Even without problems in the cervical spine itself, if the muscles, ligaments, and tendons that support the neck developed abnormal extensibility or excessive growth, the neck could appear longer than usual. Specifically, if there were a condition where the neck muscles were abnormally relaxed or connective tissues were stretched out, one might perceive the neck as elongated due to gravity or experience, a sensation of temporary stretching. 4. Endocrine abnormalities. There are also diseases where bones and cartilage undergo abnormal growth due to endocrine abnormalities, such as excessive secretion of growth hormone. For instance, in acromegaly, the bones of the hands, feet, and face enlarge, and in very rare cases, abnormal spinal growth has been reported. If these were to specifically affect the cervical spine, the possibility of the neck becoming abnormally long cannot be denied. 5. Psychological factors or illusion. Many yokai legends are also said to have their roots in human illusions, psychological fear, or mental disorders. For example, one might experience a sensation of their body abnormally stretching during sleep paralysis or perceive others' appearances as distorted due to fear or anxiety. The fact that they are often witnessed at night also suggests the possibility that in situations where visual information is limited by darkness, the human brain tried to compensate for information, resulting in the creation of a monstrous figure. Now, regarding the phenomenon of the head separating from the torso and flying, like a nuka-kubi, this is utterly inconceivable to occur in the human body. Based on modern medical and biological knowledge, if the head were to separate from the torso, the spinal cord, blood vessels, nerves, and all would be severed, resulting in immediate loss of life. However, if we were to force a medical interpretation, it would remain within the realm of highly speculative or metaphorical consideration, such as the following. 1. Confusion of astral projection with physical phenomena. The expression, "the head flies," for nuka-kubi might not refer to a physical separation of the head, but rather to how people at the time visually interpreted a phenomenon like astral projection, where the spirit or soul separates from the physical body and moves. It's possible that in the borderland between dream and reality, or in an altered state of consciousness, one might experience the sensation of their consciousness moving away from their body, which was then described as the head flying. And perhaps this mental experience was later passed down as a physical separation. 2. Abnormal self-body perception, due to severe dissociative disorder. As an extremely rare mental disorder, there are symptoms like dissociative somatic symptom disorder, where one feels that a part of their body does not belong to them. In cases where these symptoms worsen drastically, individuals might experience powerful hallucinations or delusions that their head has detached from their body and is moving freely. And when such patients were witnessed, it is conceivable that those around them perceived it as a nuka-kubi. 3. Physical mutation and analogy with insects or reptiles. Some creatures in biology, like certain lizards, can sever their tails to escape, or insects shed their exoskeletons during molting. It is not entirely impossible, though extremely unlikely, that the human body might temporarily mimic the characteristics of these different creatures due to some rare illness. However, this is entirely in the realm of science fiction according to modern science. 4. Unconscious actions during sleep and dream confusion. In very rare cases, during sleep, one might unconsciously move their head vigorously or roll over, and in a hazy state of consciousness, experience the illusion that their head is moving separately from their body. Furthermore, in cases of sleep disorders like sleep apnea, when consciousness hovers between wakefulness and sleep, one might have dreams accompanied by abnormal bodily sensations, which are then confused with reality. Thus, when trying to interpret the phenomena of rokurokubi and nukakubi from a medical perspective, while some possibilities can be found on the extension of rare illnesses or physiological phenomena, especially a complete separation, like the nukakubi enters an unrealistic realm unexplainable by modern science. However, it can also be argued that people's imagination and fear amplified these slight bodily anomalies and illusions, embodying them in the form of yokai. Yokai can also be said to be the embodiment of unexplained natural phenomena, anxieties, fears hidden in people's hearts, and curiosity about the strange. Rokurokubi and nukakubi are precisely symbols of this, embodying a sense of awe towards the human body, a being both most familiar and most mysterious. In modern Japan, with the advancement of science and technology, mysteries of diseases and the body have been solved one after another. Yet, there still exist unexplained rare illnesses and rare bodily abnormalities. If people with strange physical characteristics like rokurokubi or nukakubi truly existed in the past, how might they have been treated in society at that time? They might have been feared and discriminated against as monstrous, or they might have been revered as sacred beings, or treated as individuals with special powers. It can also be considered that behind yokai legends lies the history of how people with physical characteristics interacted with society throughout such times. For example, imagine a person whose neck structure was very flexible, making it appear temporarily long. If that person unconsciously made gestures of stretching their neck at night, those who saw it might have spread rumors like, "It's a yokai whose neck stretches." And as these rumors were passed down with embellishments, they might have been increasingly dramatized, eventually forming the current rokurokubi legends. Moreover, stories like the nukakubi, where the head and torso separate, are most likely based on some form of illusion, intense dreams, or phenomena like mass hysteria. However, it is not difficult to imagine that for people of that time, these were perceived as real events and became objects of awe. Especially incidents occurring at night or in deserted places would have stoked people's fears and provided ample material to be passed down as ghost stories. Even in modern creative works, rokurokubi and nukakubi are popular motifs. In horror works, their eerie appearance terrifies people, and in fantasy works, they are sometimes depicted as beings with unique abilities. They can also appear as comical characters in gag manga, leveraging their neck-stretching characteristic. In this way, even as times change, yokai like rokurokubi and nukakubi continue to stimulate people's imaginations. This is proof that humanity's fundamental curiosity, the drive to explore the unknown and the unusual, is passed down through generations. When we encounter phenomena or beings beyond our understanding, we try to approach their mystery by passing them down as stories and preserving them for future generations. Yokai legends are also a cultural product born from such human intellectual curiosity and primitive fear. The stories of rokurokubi and nukakubi are not just scary tales. They contain deep contemplation about the human body and reverence for the unseen. Our bodies may still hold many unsolved mysteries. Perhaps phenomena that fundamentally shake what we consider normal about the human body might be quietly occurring even in modern society, albeit very rarely. No matter how much medicine advances, it cannot unravel all the mysteries of the human body. The possibility of unnamed rare illnesses and physiological phenomena beyond common sense is never zero. Such awe and exploratory spirit towards the unknown may be the driving force that has created and passed down yokai, like rokurokubi and nukakubi from ancient times to the present. Through this video, I hope you gain a different perspective on the yokai rokurokubi and nukikubi, by not simply dismissing them as old tales or fabrications, but by contemplating the possibility that they might exist. Our world will become even richer in depth and mystery. At the Yokai channel, we will continue to explore various yokai mysteries that stimulate your intellectual curiosity. If you have any strange experiences or suspicious rumors around you, please share them in the comments. Perhaps that could be the beginning of a new yokai story. Well, our journey into the profound world of yokai is now coming to an end. This world may still hold many phenomena unexplainable by science and beings beyond our understanding. Rokurokubi and Nukakubi feel as if they are gently opening a door to such unknown realms for us. They may be mirrors reflecting our deepest fears of the monstrous and, simultaneously, our fascination with it hidden deep within our own bodies and minds. In this channel, we will continue to unravel ancient yokai stories together, delving into the human emotions behind them and their scientific possibilities. We wish to share with you moments of spine-chilling terror, mysteries that spark intellectual curiosity, and sometimes stories imbued with people's warm hearts. The presence of yokai might quietly lurk in our daily lives. By encountering their stories, we become aware of the diversity of this world and the boundless nature of human imagination. And sometimes it can be an opportunity to confront the darkness and light hidden within ourselves. It would be our greatest pleasure if this channel could bring a little spice and intellectual excitement to your daily lives. Please look forward to our continued exploration of new yokai stories, urban legends, and unexplained phenomena from various angles. With that, our profound journey into yokai exploration concludes here. Thank you very much for watching until the end. We look forward to meeting you again in the next video in a new world of yokai. Today, we are going to dive deep into a unique existence. Among Japan's many yokai, it is a being that sends shivers down your spine just by imagining it. We are talking about the Nopperabo. It has no eyes. It has no nose. It has no mouth. There is only smooth skin in the shape of a human face. Why does such a simple appearance terrify us so much? Today, we will not just tell a ghost story. We will explore the psychological impact of the Nopperabo. We will look at the depths of how our brains recognize faces. We will thoroughly explain the root of this fear, from the perspectives of psychology and brain science. Please stay with us until the end. Also, if you find this topic fascinating, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. Your support helps us bring more hidden history to light. The legend of the Nopperabo has been passed down across Japan since ancient times. The most famous version is found in Lafcadio Hearn's Kwaidan. This story vividly depicts the terror of the Nopperabo. It made the creature known to the world. The story begins in the Edo period. It takes place at a location called Kyoizaka in Kojimachi. Late at night, a merchant was passing by. He noticed a young woman walking ahead. She was crouching by the roadside. She seemed to be weeping in deep sorrow. Concerned, the merchant kindly asked if something was wrong. The woman slowly raised her face. In that moment, the merchant gasped. What he saw was a smooth, white surface. There were no eyes. There was no nose. There was no mouth. Imagine standing in that dark silence. What would you do? The shock was beyond measure. The merchant was so terrified he lost his voice. He could not even scream. His entire body simply froze. Finally, he managed to flee. He stumbled into a nearby soba shop. Breathless, he told the owner about the horrific event. He shouted that he met a woman with no face at Kyoizaka. The soba shop owner was surprised. He tried to calm the merchant down. He told him it must have been a mistake or exhaustion. The owner held out a bowl of soba. The merchant reached out with a trembling hand. Then his eyes met the owner's face. The owner was smiling kindly. But that face, too, had no eyes. It had no nose. It had no mouth. In the next instant, the merchant lost consciousness. This is the classic tale of the Nopperabo. The horror of this story is not just the visual impact. It is the chain of terror. There is a sense of despair because there is no escape. In another version, a man runs home to his wife. He tells her about the monster, but his wife also turns out to have no face. What we see here is extreme shock and confusion. Why do humans fear a face without features so much? Let us unravel this mystery through psychology. Our brains process a vast amount of visual information. Among all that data, faces are extremely special. Humans are social animals. Communication is vital for our survival. The face is the most important source of information. It tells us about emotions and intentions. It tells us gender, age, and identity. Even newborns react to face-like patterns. This ability is deeply rooted in our survival instinct. But what happens when that system fails? There are specific parts of our brain dedicated to face recognition. The fusiform face area, or FFA, is located in the temporal lobe. It plays a crucial role. When this area is active, we instantly judge that something is a human face. We process who it is or what expression they have. However, the Nopperabos face presents a violent contradiction. The basic structure of a human face is there, but the vital information of eyes and mouth is missing. This creates a massive gap. There is a conflict between what the brain expects and what it sees. This gap evokes an uncanniness that goes beyond discomfort. The brain does not know how to process this information. It falls into a state of confusion. This betrayal of expectation is the essence of the Nopperabo terror. Have you ever felt a strange chill when looking at something that is almost human, but not quite? This leads us to the uncanny valley. This is a psychological concept. As non-human objects become more human-like, they gain our affinity. But when they are almost human but slightly off, we feel strong revulsion. Think of lifelike robots or certain CG characters. They feel creepy because they are too realistic yet not perfect. The Nopperabo is an extreme example of the uncanny valley. It has the shape of a human face. It acts like a human, but it lacks the most important elements. The brain hesitates. It cannot decide if the creature is human or non-human. This results in intense discomfort. The face is a window for communication, but a Nopperabo has no expression. Its intentions cannot be read. An unpredictable entity is a fundamental threat. We instinctively fear the unknown. The Nopperabo turns the most familiar thing into something unknown. It plunges us into primal fear. Think about it. Have you ever seen a face in the shadows that turned out to be nothing? Tell us about your experiences in the comments. In Hearn's story, the merchant meets a second Nopperabo. This suggests a hallucination triggered by extreme stress. Fear can distort our cognitive functions. One might see things that do not exist. The merchant was already in a state of ultimate terror. His brain was already distorted. When he saw the soba shop owner, his brain may have reinterpreted the face as another monster. This also relates to mass panic. One person experiences fear and tells others. The listeners fall under a psychological suggestion. They begin to experience the same thing. In eras where information was scarce, supernatural beliefs were common. Collective misperceptions were more likely to occur. This relates to the modern spread of rumors and fake news. Groundless fear spreads through a chain reaction. Now let us look even closer using neuroscience. The FFA is like a control tower for faces, but when features are missing, the processing stalls. It causes a serious error. This error is transmitted to the amygdala. The amygdala is the center of emotions. It handles fear, anxiety, and anger. When it senses danger, it sends signals for fight or flight. The amygdala reacts strongly to the Nopperabo. This triggers physical responses. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes rapid. Your muscles tense up. The merchant fainting was likely an excessive amygdala reaction. Also, the prefrontal cortex is involved in rational decisions. When the amygdala is overactive, the prefrontal cortex is suppressed. In extreme fear, we lose calm judgment. We fall into a panic. Our brains are always predicting what will happen next. We look at the world with the premise that faces have eyes and mouths. The Nopperabo overturns that premise fundamentally. When our predictions are betrayed, we feel deep confusion. This is similar to the surreal images in dreams. In dreams, logic collapses. The Nopperabo is like the eeriness of a dream manifesting in reality. We can also compare this to prosopagnosia, or face blindness. This is a condition where the ability to recognize faces is lost. A person might not distinguish their own family. The Nopperabo shows a bug in this system. It is an embodiment of a state where the system cannot function. Both show how complex our brain processes are. They show the anxiety that arises when these processes break. Extreme fatigue and sleep deprivation can also play a role. They change our cognitive functions. They make hallucinations more likely. Many Nopperabo sightings likely involved the individual's mental state. Seeing something that is not there due to fear is entirely possible. It is a biological response to stress. What does the Nopperabo mean to us today? In our modern world, we are exposed to countless faces. On social media, many are processed or AI-generated. AI-generated faces can be very realistic yet feel eerie. This is a modern Nopperabo phenomenon. Our brains detect subtle discrepancies. This manifests as the uncanny valley. The feeling that something is real but different tells us our brain is alert. The spread of fake news is another version of this panic. Rumors fuel anxiety. They are suddenly believed as truth. When society is filled with uncertain information, our cognition is distorted. We start seeing monsters where there are none. The Noparabo asks us about our inner fears. It asks how we recognize the world. It is the fear of the familiar becoming unfamiliar. We know that what we see is not everything. But what if the unseen is created by our own brains? The story of the Noparabo makes us think about our limits. It shows the danger of group psychology. Is what we are seeing truly reality? Our brains can deceive us. They can show us things that do not exist. They can make us see things differently. On this channel, we will continue to dive deep. We will look at ghost stories through science and psychology. By approaching the essence of fear, we understand the world better. We discover new things about our own minds. What would you do if you met a Noparabo on a dark road? Is it a hallucination of your brain? Or is it an entity truly standing there? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe and give us a like. It helps our channel grow. See you in the next video. Hello, everyone. Deep in the mountains of Japan, there is a certain presence that has been feared since ancient times. An old woman dressed in tattered clothes, her white hair disheveled, who preys on travelers who have lost their way. This is the Yamamba. This creature appears in many folk tales and legends. But have you ever thought deeply about her true identity? Is she a simple imaginary monster? Or is she a transformation of a harsh reality buried in the darkness of history? Today, I would like to delve into the legend of the Yamamba, passed down in isolated mountain settlements, and the shockingly tragic historical background hidden behind it. Have you ever felt someone watching you or experienced an unexplainable chill in the deep forests or rugged mountains far from human habitation? If at that moment you found an old house and were invited in by a kind old woman, what would you do? The existence known as Yamamba has been talked about in mountainous areas throughout Japan since ancient times. Generally, she is known as a monster, with a terrifying face who captures and consumes people. However, on the other hand, it is also said that the Yamamba has an aspect as a mountain deity who brings good fortune. This contradictory duality may indicate the depth of the Yamamba's existence. For example, the Yamamba who raised Kintaro in Mount Ashigara is depicted as an affectionate and strong figure. However, what we are focusing on today is not such a warm story, but rather the blood-stained legends of those who take a life under the cover of night. The Yamamba, appearing in many ghost stories, often follows a pattern of offering a traveler a place to stay and then starting to sharpen a kitchen knife once they have fallen asleep. Her purpose was to satisfy her hunger, which meant taking the traveler's life. Why did these women seek the flesh of their own kind? Deeply involved in this were the horrific food situations that ancient Japan faced, and the unique ethics created by isolated communities. Looking back at history, former mountain settlements were literally in a state of isolation, cut off from the outside world. Roads were not maintained, and in winter they were closed off by deep snow, completely stopping the supply of food. In such extreme conditions, what would happen if crop failures or famines due to bad weather overlapped? There is a theory that the path people were forced to choose to survive was a forbidden eating habit. That would be completely unacceptable to our modern sensibilities. Specifically, are you familiar with the term kuchibarashi? It was a sad means of reducing the number of family members to distribute limited food to those who could survive. The targets were often young children or elderly parents, who were less likely to be a labor force. There are also points that the legend of Ubasuteyama, or the mountain, where the elderly were abandoned, was not just a story, but actually part of a functioning system. An old woman abandoned in the mountains became feral in order to survive and eventually began to attack people from the village. The idea that this is one of the true identities of the Yamamba is very persuasive. Here is something I want to ask you all. If you were placed in an extreme situation where you had to sacrifice someone's life to let your beloved family survive, would you have the confidence to maintain your correct ethics? It is terrifying even to imagine. But in former isolated settlements that may have existed as a realistic choice, there are also interesting commonalities. In the physical characteristics of the Yamamba, descriptions such as having a large mouth on top of the head, or being an extremely heavy eater. Could this be an embodiment of the latent fear of people who were constantly suffering from hunger? A sense of starvation that cannot be satisfied no matter how much one eats. It is the instinctive craving of a human being, trying to survive an extreme state. Also, many legends remain that the Yamamba dislikes metal, which is said to symbolize the friction between the indigenous people living in the mountains, or nomadic people, and the village people who settled and farmed. Furthermore, in certain settlements, records exist that, while the Yamamba was enshrined as a kind of guardian deity, her true nature was a target to which people's lives were offered. Human sacrifice, the ritual of offering, someone's life to pray for the peace of the entire village. What if, while appearing to be the work of a monster, it was actually an organized action taken to maintain the community? What if the people who became victims became grudges and were passed down to later generations as the specter of the Yamamba? Thinking about it that way, doesn't the sound of the mountain wind, said to be the cry of the Yamamba, sound like something else? It cannot be ignored that treasures and wealth often appear in Yamamba stories. The ending, where the person who defeated the Yamamba brings back a large amount of money and goods from her house. This suggests the possibility that people who monopolized mineral resources, sleeping in mountainous areas or unique trade routes, spread rumors of the Yamamba to exclude outsiders, fabricating the existence of a terrifying monster to protect their own interests, or to justify acts of plunder. They framed the opponent as a monster called Yamamba. The aspect that human greed created the monster is also an undeniable fact. The existence of the Yamamba has changed its form over time. From medieval picture scrolls to ghost stories of the Edo period and modern urban legends, she is always by our side. The Yamamba in modern times is talked about, for example, as an unidentified old woman who suddenly appears on a mountain path, or a strange figure wandering around a campsite at night. Although the form changes, the awe we instinctively feel toward the mountains and the eeriness of not knowing what is being done in a closed-off place are common. Here, let me ask you once more. Is the Yamamba really an existence of the past or only within the imagination? Don't you think there are places even at this moment in deep mountain settlements, not on the map, where ancient rules continue to be kept? And there, the exchange of lives that we should have forgotten may still be taking place. As a climax, let me introduce an episode left in an old record. It is an event in a village that a young man wandered into while traveling. In that village, everyone treated him kindly, but at night, the old women of the village gathered in one place and were sharpening blades while singing a strange song. The young man felt terror and fled, but at that time he saw it, a pile of countless bones, under the floorboards that were clearly not from animals nor from humans. He desperately escaped back to the village and reported it to the officials, but it is said that he could never find that village again. What this story means: it is the possibility that the Yamamba was not an individual monster, but the madness shared by the entire settlement. For people who were isolated from society and built their own survival strategies, those who came from the outside may have looked like a blessing, rather than a mere intruder, taking a life to live. The concept of the Yamamba was necessary to deify or justify that act. A monster born of a sad survival instinct, the most terrifying and most human-like. That may be the true form of the existence known as Yamamba. Well, how did you feel about this story of the Yamamba and the isolated settlement? I think you noticed that there are many parts, linked to actual history, to just dismiss it as a scary story. In the silence of the mountains, the sound of someone sobbing, or the sound of sharpening a blade, may still be mixed in even now. If you have a chance to walk in the mountains next time, please be very careful not to stray from the path and be mindful of the presence behind you. On this channel, we will deeply delve into the unknown truths and historical backgrounds hidden behind such traditional Japanese monsters and urban legends. If you found this interesting, please subscribe to the channel and give us a high rating. Also, if there are stories of the Yamamba passed down in your area or mysterious experiences, please let us know in the comment section. Your experience might become the theme of the next video. Well then, see you in the next story.